Hello and welcome. Today we are talking about Donald Trump. In the current global media, there is only one question being asked. Will Trump's policies lead to a recession in the USA and other countries? You can see this in a BBC article titled, "Is the US Heading Towards a Recession?" This headline is appearing everywhere. Some journalists are saying, don't call it a recession, call it a Trump session. This is because Trump's policies might likely lead to a recession in the USA. However, if Trump changes his stance, which he often does, like imposing tariffs one day and removing them the next, then perhaps the recession can be avoided. For now, economists are warning that the way the stock market is tanking, it seems there is only one fear, that Trump's trade wars will have a very negative impact on the US economy. Trump's strategy is to impose so many tariffs on other countries' products that the U.S. government will save a lot of money. With this saved money, the U.S. government plans to significantly reduce taxes for its citizens. This is the equation Trump is working with, which also involves Elon Musk's role in reducing government expenses. The effort is to create an environment where the U.S. public can receive massive income tax cuts. Now, if there is a miscalculation in this equation, say if Trump overestimates the tariffs and their impact on income tax, then the USA could face a large-scale recession. Interestingly, a Canadian politician was recently asked if Canada might also enter a recession alongside the US. They replied, yes, it's possible, and blamed Donald Trump. Again, I stress that this is not the fault of the American people. If we don't go into a recession, it will be because of one person, President Trump. We should be booming in both countries right now. Many European leaders are also making statements that if Trump continues this way, he will lead his country and others into recession. Trump's problem is that he doesn't stick to one policy. He operates like a startup, changing decisions frequently. Recently, a journalist asked Trump if the U.S. is heading towards a recession.
With Zelensky. Let me stay on the economy for a moment, because there are rising worries about a slowdown. You've got the Atlanta Federal Reserve saying we're going to have a contraction in the first quarter. Look, I know that you inherited a mess, and you said that the other night.
I've only been here,
but are you expecting a recession this year?
I hate to predict things like that. There is a period of transition, because what we're doing is very big. We're bringing wealth back to America. That's a big thing. And there are always periods of, it takes a little time. It takes a little time.
As soon as he made these statements, the U.S. stock market began to fall. Reporters confronted him, pointing out the stock market's continuous decline. Trump then took a U-turn, saying there would be no recession. However, leaders of any country typically don't admit to an impending recession because they need to maintain national morale and optimism. Earlier, Trump threatened to impose additional tariffs on Canada beyond the existing 25%. When he later said the chances of a recession were low, he also backed down from the threat of further tariffs. Two questions arise here. Will the U.S. genuinely face a recession? And if so, how will it affect the world? What happens in the U.S. affects the world, as seen in the past when the U.S. sneezed. The world caught a cold. The U.S. economy's dominance was so strong that when it faced issues, the entire world felt it. Today, while the U.S. still has significant leadership, its dominance has decreased somewhat due to China's rise. However, if it becomes clear that the U.S. is in a recession, many economies around the world will face negative impacts. One after another, several economies could enter recession. Currently, cracks are already appearing in the U.S. economy, with numerous articles suggesting that Trump is sending the U.S. economy in the wrong direction. The average American consumer is feeling the pinch, with inflation rising and basic items like fruits, bread, and eggs becoming more expensive. This is largely due to Trump's policies of imposing tariffs. The end result is that while the U.S. government might gain financially, the American consumer bears the brunt. Trump's strategy involves reducing income taxes, but this benefits only a portion of the population. About 40% of the U.S. population doesn't earn enough to pay income taxes, so they won't benefit from tax cuts. Instead, they face rising prices for essential goods. If Trump continues with his tariff war, it's a gamble that could lead to a recession. This behavior is not typical of a superpower. It's more like a startup changing strategies frequently. Recently, news emerged that the U.S. Vice President, J.D. Vance, is visiting India this month. This visit will be closely covered by international and Indian media, as his statements could indicate whether there will be a trade deal or tariff war between the U.S. and India. In summary, cracks are appearing in the U.S. economy, and Trump's tariff agenda might be put on hold or continued depending on his stance. If he persists, there is a possibility that the U.S. could enter a recession. A recession is typically defined as 2 consecutive quarters where the GDP growth rate is negative. If this happens, it will be interesting to see how events unfold.